What's up, guys? We're back with Hands Moving and Danmachi playing. It's been a while.
Yeah, since you've been absent.
Taken some time to digest Season 2.
Yeah, I think that was important for Season 2 because there's a lot of things that I think were kind of disappointing for fans in some areas, but it was also still a very solid season, so I guess we're going to talk about the good and the bad. But, if you've seen like our episode by episode stuff, like basically what happens in the season, but just the short version of like what happened is that this covers the content from book 6 to technically 8, and then we get like the war game arc, we get the pleasure quarters arc, and we get a little bit of side story, or I guess the Ares attack on Orario.
Yeah, some people are book readers, some people are anime watchers. If you're an anime watcher, and obviously go back and read the first 7 books.
Yeah.
Especially 6 and 7. But I think it would not necessarily be necessary, but I think it would be beneficial when you enjoy reading book 8 after the season, especially since it's going to be a while before season 3 comes out.
And technically, we don't even know if like any OVAs would touch on the content that they cut from that book.
Because usually, I mean, obviously with season 1 we only have one example, but with season 1 they didn't have any OVAs that actually had meaningful content. It was all just like, here's an episode where they're in the dungeon and there's a hot spring or something.
And I'm pretty sure that the hot spring thing was like an original concept that the show made specifically for the OVA. There is a few things though, like besides like cut content. That's obviously probably like the big like thing that most people disliked. It's not so much for me that content was cut. I mean, partially yes. Does it sadden me that we don't get to see some of those scenes play out? Yes, but I think, like many people have highlighted before, and especially like we talked about in our episode by episode reviews, is some things have to get cut just for the sake of 30-minute episodes, and the fact that they chose to do 12 episodes or technically 13 episodes again for this season. But for me, I think it was just like some of the inconsistencies on showing some of that story, and then also just some of the highlights they decided to make a focus, because I think there is some things that they do, like for instance the episode, and I'm a little bit fuzzy since it has been a while since we've watched the season now, but I believe it was around episode 8, maybe it was episode 8. You can fact check me if you want and put it in the comment, but it's the one where we get a little bit more of I'm going to try to say it the right way, Harahime and Aisha, and you get to see basically how Aisha is technically a antagonist in this scenario, but she's not technically a villain. And that episode, I think, is one of the best ones of the season. It really does adapt the source material very well, in my opinion, and I think it does it in a way that doesn't really feel like they cut. I mean, obviously they cut some minor things, but I feel like it's just a really good adaptation in that piece. But then there's other parts of the season that, like for instance, like the war game, where I don't think that is as bad. Like the war game, I think, I don't know, like if you've seen it or not, I think most people like the war game the most out of the whole series, maybe excluding the current arc that we're in, but definitely like these 2 arcs are the ones that people have most attachment to. And I think that whole arc that we see in the beginning of the season, and then the end note of the second major arc we get, is a little bit lackluster in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about the positive things. Like you're saying, Hirahime's introduction and just her development as a character was great in the anime.
A stellar highlight. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily can say it for other shows because I haven't read many like source materials of shows before they get adapted, but the casting for like, not only the characters that we've already gotten, but like for all the new characters, I loved them. I think they got, really good people to portray those characters, and not only that, but I think the writing, or at least the consistency with how those characters are in the book, I think the actors and actresses portrayed them very well, and that's something in the show I think they nail on the head, even though there's some, again, inconsistencies with the story parts of it. I think the characters, at least themselves, are really well shown in the show. Yeah,
the other positive moment so obviously probably my favorite character, a new decision they made was Hirahime for sure, but I think I really did enjoy how they took the Hestia and Belle relationship in like the last 2 episodes, how they kind of expanded on that, and it's obviously in book 8, so it's not like they're breaking new ground necessarily, but the the scenes that they chose to portray, I really appreciated that as an ending to a season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of the things that we had coming in that was kind of questionable is how are they going to end the season? How is it going to make sense for them to stop here? But I think they at least put in some effort to have an emotional ending where you're like, okay, I felt satisfied, with where Belle is at right now.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a great payoff too because they did the setup in the War Game arc in the second episode where they're running around away from Apollo Familia, and you have that little moment between Hestia and Belle, and you kind of get again like her being a little bit more direct on like how she feels and stuff like that. And then, again, it gets put on the back burner, but in the last couple episodes, it really does highlight that for a good payoff in that regard.
Yeah. So as far as the bad, not necessarily the bad, but the decisions that I didn't really like as much, I think the War Game ending finale, or like the ending episode of the War Game and the fight scenes were kind of lackluster compared to the book. It's hard because your imagination is always going to be better than what people put into a scene when it comes to fight scenes.
Yeah, but also I do. It's really weird because I've read the books. I mean, you have too. I still get excited, or I still get a remnant of the thing I felt when I read the book. But I do agree with some people that have commented that the feeling between, I guess it's just how it's a mixture of like how they depict the fight and then just like the overall air that the show has. In the first season, they do a really good job, especially with like the Minotaur fight, obviously, of it just being like not only visually a cool fight, but also just getting that underdog feeling that is known for the series. And like even though I don't really like the Goliath fight in this first season that much, or it's still like a highlight to the show overall, just some things about the second season, they don't capture that same essence, even though the fight setup is supposed to be.
Let's talk about something that did better than the book, and that is making Freya the best bro of all time.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, that's also probably, that's tied or probably second of like my favorite part of the second season, because I don't remember. It's been a while, so I can't really say, but it is for sure a great highlight that they put that in there and they didn't leave that out, because she's such an intricate part about like just like how they're able to sometimes get the scale tipped into their favor, and I just love that we got to see that. And also Otter with Prin.
We got some good moments.
Man, I want to see more of him so much. But yeah, the other thing I thought was a good standout, which you actually brought it up to my attention, and I didn't really notice it until you said something, and then I tried to pay attention to it. But it was the music in the background, or the score for the show. I thought that was really good. There is a pieces I even got kind of giddy about, because they are shown in their mobile game. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. They're using the mobile game continuity. I like that. What did you think of the animation? Because I think overall the animation is a little bit, I don't know, it's hard to tell because I haven't seen them back to back, but I think the animation looks a little bit clearer or crisper. I don't know, because we watched the movie and it didn't seem lesser quality than the movie. And I thought the movie's animation was pretty good. I mean, the first season had pretty good animation too, but I don't think it's lessened at all.
No, I think quality-wise, I mean, obviously they had a long period of time, so it'll be interesting to see if like the quality goes down in season 3 if they release it in the next 4 years or 2 years. If they release.
Well, technically, we're supposed to get it in May, right?
Yeah.
May of next
so
year.
Hopefully they've been working on that. But as far as like quality, both in animations and in fight scenes, I think you get a good. I think it's never to a point where it like takes you out of the scene or the out of the characters. And I think as long as art style is like a plus and not a hindrance, then that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like you were saying though, it does have a problem, which it's always a problem. Like when you have someone who's an underdog once or twice, it's more believable the first or second time it is like the third, fourth, fifth time. Like, that's why like Rocky as an underdog story doesn't work for like movie 5,
That's true.
So he has to be old or something. So so it's inherently harder for Belle to be an underdog, but I think the good thing that the book does is he's still an underdog where we are in the other series, but he's also a hero. And I think but probably book 9, 10, and 11 is kind of the turning point where he comes from like a young kid to like a kid who's who's developing into a hero. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully they can capture that a little bit better than they did like the underdog part of this in season 2.
Yeah. I can't really think much to talk about. I did hear somebody say like they thought the sound effects were a little oof, but I was like, I'll tell you what, those sound effects are like they're S tier compared to some other shows I saw that same season.
Which we might do a video on why this particular show failed. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
But, learn from the failures. But, overall, I think Danmachi it's increased in popularity, at least in the States, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
The movie, I think it really grossed a lot of money and helped them, like the voice actors, to want to continue to do the series. We still have probably a season or a season and a half of content. I would really be happy if just season 3 was just the Xeno arc. I mean, that'd be cool with me.
Yeah, which we will get into probably a separate video of our discussion of season 3. But overall, I guess wrapping it up for season 2, it's really hard when I come to a rating, so I'll do a little segment before that to give myself extra time.
To think.
It's really a mixed bag for me, honestly. But I do think I enjoyed it more than I disliked it. And I don't know, maybe that's because I've read the books, so I was able to kind of fill in the gaps or just know that I still had that with me when I was watching those scenes play out. But I think overall they handled the season still pretty decently. I think besides, again, some story elements, it's a pretty solid season. Again, that's probably the main thing of a show is its writing and what it depicts for the story. But so it's not necessarily a minor bad thing, but it's still I would say above average show for sure. And I don't know about you, this is more of a personal opinion, this does not affect my review at all, but I will say I think overall, even though season 2 doesn't quite nail or hit the nail as finely as the first season did, I think it was still more enjoyable to me looking at it between 2 seasons. And maybe that's just the content. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's just me personally. What about you?
So, the part of this is giving a final rating, so I think I've talked more about the things I like and the things I didn't like, so without further ado, now I think it's a gotta have it or an FFA for me, so I think the source material does carry it and cover many of the flaws that it has, and I don't know, we talked about this previously, how the OVAs may take into account or into an overall rating, and that's probably a rating hoping that the OVAs actually have some of the missing content. If they don't, it's probably just a gotta have it. But either way, I think I was satisfied with the season, and I'm glad the direction that Danmachi is going in. And as far as where Danmachi is in that series, you have Overlord, you have other shows. I think it's in a good place. So I'm excited to see what they do next, and I hope that the author continues to pump out storylines because we're at a cliffhanger here, and
It's true.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah,
I would agree with that rating. For me, I think it is in that gotta have more so gotta have it than FFA, just because I think giving it anything higher is kind of a disservice to being biased. So I will give it a low tier gotta have it. But it's still a very solid show. If you haven't seen the first season yet, I don't know why you watched the second season or why you're watching this video, but you should go watch it. And if you haven't watched the second season, you should, because I think even though it may not fully blow you away, I think it does live up to being a second season of a show that started off very well, and I hope it goes better and better and better because we want to talk about more, because it's the most profitable thing on this channel.
Profitable, I don't know. Fun,
that's true. All right, but anyway, guys, that'll conclude this, and we'll be back shortly for more Danmachi stuff. We're behind, but we got
some anime
planned.
stuff coming up.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, talk to you later.
Peace.